Have pickup trucks gotten too big, too expensive, and too aggro for you? Ford's got something you need to take a long look at, the 2022 Maverick. It's not built like a typical truck, but that means this compact hauler is also shockingly efficient and affordable. Plus, it's got versatility and cleverness to spare, so let's go for a spin in Ford's little rule breaker. So I'm driving something that's extremely rare, a base model at a press launch. I gotta tell you guys, this never happens. It shows a lot of confidence that Ford has in this vehicle, that they're willing to show the model without any bells and whistles, just the base model. In fact, I think this is probably the least expensive vehicle that I've driven at a press launch in years. So this base XL model, it starts at $19,995, but the reality is you and I have to pay destination, so that makes this one around $21,500. That's actually still cheaper than a Honda Civic. Now, this is a pretty basic interior, I'm not gonna lie to you, but it's honest, and I appreciate that. And it's still got all the key stuff you need. There's an 8-inch touchscreen here, you get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto standard. You get hard plastic in a lot of places, but it's honestly grained and it actually feels all right. There's still soft touch kind of where it matters, like down here on the armrests. Overall, it feels good. So this is the base XL model, which is actually a hybrid, and it's front-wheel drive. Now, all-wheel drive is available, but if you want a hybrid and you want those 40 miles per gallon, you need this guy right here. It's 191 horsepower. That's total system horsepower, including the electric assist, and it's got 155 pound-feet of torque. I admit, that doesn't sound like a ton, but this vehicle is relatively lightweight, and frankly, I have no problem getting around in it. So if you're like me, you've been wondering, where has a new compact pickup truck been for so long? And Ford says that it's because they can leverage the architecture of this vehicle, the C2 architecture, which also underpins the Escape and the new Ford Bronco Sport. They said that that scale gives it enough bandwidth that they can afford to do a model like this and make it as cheap as it is. Whatever the reason, and I'm as sick of compact crossovers as you are, give thanks because it's great that this is here. So for $21,500, you gotta be wondering, what are you missing? Honestly, little bits of things here and there, like the side mirrors, I actually had to power down the window and adjust it by hand. The horror. There's a key in the ignition slot. That's right, I said ignition slot and key. In fairness, I recently drove a Ford Ranger Tremor. It's over 40 grand and it had one of those too. You know what? It still works just fine. I have a feeling that there's some of you out there that aren't into all the high tech. You just want simple, reliable. Maybe you're a little older, maybe you're a little younger and would rather do it yourself. Either way, base model will get you where you need to go and get you there on the cheap. So what is this like to drive? In a word, car-like. And I mean that maybe even more than something like the Honda Ridgeline, which really isn't in this price class. You're sitting relatively low, the dashboard is low, the dimensions of this thing are really manageable. This is under 200 inches long. It feels like a compact crossover that just happens to have a bed in the back. I find that kind of enjoyable because it means you can kind of head into the corners here carrying a little bit more speed than you might otherwise in a big burly pickup truck, but some people might be thrown off by that a little bit too because they like the feel of a truck. I have an independent rear suspension out back. I have front wheel drive. This, by all intents and purposes, it's more or less a car. One other thing that I'm pleasantly surprised with in this vehicle is the braking feel. Normally, hybrids are a recipe for weird feeling brakes, often very spongy and sort of not progressive at all, but this has a nice firm feel, short stroke, pretty linear. I'm pretty impressed. We'll get to the higher power gas-only EcoBoost powertrain in a sec, but it's worth digging into the hybrid's fuel economy figures a bit deeper because they're so outrageous. Ford is targeting 40 MPG in the city, which is just about double what the company's larger Ranger can do. The rest of the numbers are good too, 33 MPG city and 37 combined. That's enough for a bladder-busting 500 miles between fill-ups. Impressively, in a brief urban test loop, I beat Ford's 40 MPG bogey without even trying. So we've established that this base model is actually really good, but I also want to see how the other end of this model spectrum lives. That's the Lariat. So let's hop in one of those. All right, through the magic of the internet, it's day 2 here on the 2022 Ford Maverick launch. And it's off-roading day, it's towing day, it's hauling day. We're starting off here in a mid-grade XLT trim with the FX4 off-road package, and they've got a nice little light-duty off-road course set up for us. So let's see what this thing can do. The 2-liter brings with it 250 horses and 277 pound-feet of torque, which means it's a lot more powerful than the base hybrid, and you can feel it. Also, the continuously variable transmission has been shown the door, and in its place is a conventional 8-speed torque converter automatic. If you're wary of CVTs or you just want more power, this is the way to go, although it is quite a bit less efficient at 22 MPG city, 29 highway, and 25 combined for all-wheel drivers like this. Now remember, this is an all-wheel drive system. It's a unibody crossover. We're not talking lockers, low range, all that sort of stuff. It's mostly electronic trickery that's getting us there. But you'd be surprised at how much you can get accomplished with a setup like that. So the FX4 option package is only available on the all-wheel drive models with the 2-liter. So no hybrid here, but I gotta say it's probably the biggest steal on the options list. It's $800 and it gets you a ton of stuff, including front tow hooks, underbody shielding, additional drive modes, including the mud and ruts that we're using here. And most importantly, it gives you beefier tires. So there are actually 2 tire packages that you can get on FX4. Comes standard with Pirelli Scorpion AT tires, but if you want something a little bit more aggressive, like we're riding on right now, these are Falken Wild Peak tires that are borrowed from the Badlands version of the Bronco Sport. They're a further $795, so not as cheap as the base package for the FX4, but they are a little knobbier, they're a little wider at 10 millimeters wider, and they give you a bit more of a planted look and stance, a little bit more traction off-road. You might think it'd be tight inside this compact, but it's actually roomier in nearly every dimension than the much larger Ranger, and it's much more modern and flexible too. That last bit is because there's a novel plug-in accessory system that lets you add cup holders, garbage bins, almost anything. Ford is making the mounting cleats design open source so owners can develop and 3D print accessories and share their plans with other owners, which is very cool. Stepping up beyond the mid-grade XLT all the way into the Lariat scene here, and you get rich brown color to the leatherette seats, and you get this sharp bronze effect trim too. Lariats start at about 27 grand in your driveway, and the trim adds an 8-way power driver's seat, a bigger digital display in the gauge cluster, plus dual-zone climate control, and an acoustic windshield. If you want even more features like a heated steering wheel and heated seats, remote start 8-speaker premium B&O audio, and a wireless charge pad, you're looking at a further $3,300 or so for the Luxe package, but you'll also get a bunch of other convenience and safety gear too. More on that last part in a minute. Annoyingly, you'll have to splurge on the top-shelf Lariat if you want common features like satellite radio or push-button start. These should frankly be optional, if not included on the mid-grade XLT. And no matter how much money you have, you can't cut the cord on CarPlay and Android Auto. This truck runs Ford's older Sync 3 infotainment, and it isn't possible to go wireless. Now these vehicles, even though they're unibody, even though they're not full 4-wheel drive systems, are a lot more capable than you might think. You can go bombing down fire roads, run a nice little piece of 2-track here. And the crazy thing about this Maverick is it's so affordable that even with an FX4 package and the knobbier tires and all of that, it's still about as cheap as a side-by-side, so this could make a great farm truck substitute. Is this the substitute for a Ford Bronco or an F-150 Tremor or something like that? Well, heck no, but you don't have to pay that big ticket money either. About those safety features. They're there, but sometimes they're a little hard to get to. Every Maverick comes with pre-collision assist with automatic emergency braking, along with automatic high beams. A $540 Co-Pilot 360 ADAS suite adds blind spot monitor and lane keep assist. Unfortunately, most other advanced driver assists require going all the way up the Mav's trim ladder, including adaptive cruise, and that is frustrating. So we started out in a base XL Maverick with the front-wheel drive hybrid. This is the other end of the portfolio. This is probably closer to around $37,000. It's a luxury Lariat trim, the highest one you can get, with the 2-liter EcoBoost motor and all-wheel drive. And I'm actually towing right now. I've got the 4K tow package, which is $745. It gets you things like an upgraded transmission, additional cooling, that sort of thing. along with trailer brake control. Right now I'm dragging a couple of Sportsman ATVs from Polaris. Tow package is rated for 4K. This is 3650 right now as configured, and it's pretty comfortable. Now I definitely know I've got some weight back there. You can feel it. We're in the hilly Tennessee country out here, so you can definitely feel it when you're on the downhills, but since I've got brakes back there and I've got the trailer brake controller, it's pretty confidence inspiring. It's not too bad. Now fuel economy is another matter entirely. I've seen as low as 12.5 on the instant mileage readout. You're probably looking at more like 14 or 15 typically with this kind of load, or maybe even a little bit higher on the freeway steady state cruising. So this is something you don't want to tow with every day. It's just not really designed for that, but for shorter distances, or you got a light travel trailer or something like that, you'll be fine. Now, there's a wild card in all of this: Ford's ability to build these things in volume in Mexico. Ford's been struggling to achieve on-time, high-quality new model launches even without the global pandemic and chip shortage. Just ask Bronco, Escape, and Explorer buyers. Fortunately, the first Mavericks are already filtering into dealers, so we'll have to give them the benefit of the doubt for now. One of the best things about this new Maverick is its flex bed system. It's not loaded up with high-tech, high-dollar stuff. It's smart technology. Our man Craig Cole has the full download in a separate video, so be sure to check that out. If you're like me, you've been thinking for at least a decade that America's midsize pickups have gotten way too big and way too expensive, leaving a gap in the market underneath that's big enough to drive a truck through. As it turns out, that truck might just be this Ford Maverick. It's not built like a typical pickup, but that means it's unusually affordable and unusually efficient. Is it right for you?